So I wanted to show you how some of those texture techniques can be used in a painting as a whole, because they can seem kind of like a great idea on their own, but then you're like, well, how do I layer that into my real work? So this is just a painting I'm working on. Show you some of the middle process here. The first thing I'm going to do is create a wash. This skirt I want to feel very textured, very worn in, so I'm going to use that plastic wrap trick. So I'm creating a wash over the whole thing in this kind of pale tan color. And then I will apply the plastic wrap over it to help us get kind of a mottled, unpredictable wash that will help it feel aged and worn and stained in a way that maybe it would take me a long time to guess at painting. So I already had my shadows and light and things underpainted into it, so this is more about creating the midtones and the feeling of the actual fabric. So now that the plastic wrap is down, you know we can't really move it around very much. So I'm putting something underneath it so we can do some embossing. It works a little better if there's like a softer surface behind it for you to press through to create those little indents. So I'm using my transparent blender pencil to preserve some of these shadows around the edges and hair-like strokes. So this will keep the layers underneath this from going over that. If I'm going to add lighter colors, this will keep that kind of blue underpainting. And then following the same areas I just did that, I'm going to add some embossing, because then we'll get even some darker colors if I do another wash over this. We'll have a mixture of the color that is currently there that I just preserved with the pencil and some darker hairs, and then a new midtone from the new wash. So you can see in the areas that the pencil is pushing out of the way and maintaining a couple of our little highlighter tones. And you can also see some of the areas where I've gotten even darker saturation from this wash because of the embossing. So much like when you work, I'm continually upping my saturation, adding more shadows, finding our balance. And you can see where it's perfect, like the pencil around the edge of the hand and things is really containing these more wet washes I'm working on. So I've preserved that with that transparent pencil. The reason I'm using that instead of a white pencil is because I don't want to make it lighter. I just want to keep it the way I've painted it already. So then I can be a little freer with these washes, knowing that it's not going to affect my skin tones. As much. I didn't color them solid. I just did in a couple spots where they hit the shadows. This is for like a wood goddess kind of character, so they have like a crown of branches and ivies and things, so creating some shadows up there that I'll go back and do the detail in this later. So most of that is dried. I've gone ahead and pulled out the plastic wrap, and you can see because I did such a light wash, it's very faintly mottled, but it does have a very nice feeling of a little more age to it instead of a flat wash. Adding my warmth and some more shadows to a different tone as we're going. And then I'm going to go ahead and work on the wash on the side over here in just a minute. We're gonna deepen this wash quite a bit, and then we're gonna add some salt crystals to it to give that irregular effect, a little bit of a magical effect. So since this is the side of my character that light is hitting, I've put the dark wash next to it so that where she has the lightest edge, all of her highlights are going into the darkest area versus where her shadow is on the other side is going into the white of the paper. So keeping my contrast high. So here we're adding a couple of those salt crystals. I'm focusing on the top around the head and shoulders and a little on the bottom. And then we start popping out some more of those highlights. So that's just how you can start to see how using some of those textures can help you create a little bit of a different effect as things go on. They can just be part of your layer. They're not the main star of the show, but they do help to build up, especially worn textures or places where you want a more organic feel. Our hands tend to make patterns a little more predictable the longer we do them, so these textures help you make more organic effects.